First thing I want to say is welcome to the 45-day Total Transformation Challenge. There is somebody, two people have entered the room waiting for them. Josh, admit all. I don't know why they're waiting. Good. Okay. Um, we're super excited to do this journey with you, this challenge with you. I think that you guys are brave. We are. You're brave to be taking this challenge. Um, I was thinking about what it takes, and I realized that you have to begin to be fed up and be determined. And I'm grateful for that. I think that, it took me crisis to start being determined and to decide to do something different with my life. And so I'm very encouraged by this group and just kind of what we're going to do moving forward. So I wanted to go through some housekeeping rules, and then we'll introduce ourselves. We'll talk about where do you live and why are you here and what's your name. And then that way we can be on one accord. Did everybody get a chance to look at the app, the meal planning app? It's called Meal Planner Pal. Did y'all get to look at that? Yes, no? We'll send it again if you didn't get a chance to look at it. So one of the first things that we wanted to do is, I'll go through the first rule, then I'll talk about those things. So housekeeping rules, make sure you go over the golden rules, the 5 golden rules. The first one is specific to just everyone. We want to make sure everybody knows their why. When you know your why, the what is possible. When you're engaged in difficulty and you don't really know why you're doing it, it's easier to give up. And so I want you guys to make sure you keep that in front of you and you always just kind of reminding yourself, this is why I'm doing this, especially on the weekends and the days you feel like I'm just going to give myself a break. I'm going to leave from everything. Like, we want you to remember why you're doing this, and you to be reminded of your specific why. Also, the do not eat, the do and the do not eat. I was going to initially just kind of write the do not eat, and then I realized you can't take something without replacing something. And so what I put was the do eat, right? So I want you to give more attention to the do eat category than the do not eat. Let me just go ahead and go over that just so you can know what that means. What that essentially means is this: for the next 45 days, where the do not eat list exists, you're going to have to make a substitute. So if there's pork, like bacon or something, you're going to have to like substitute for like turkey bacon or tofu. I'm not a real big fan of tofu at all, but you're going to have to make a substitution for that, right? Dairy, right? So that means dairy, not just in terms of milk. So if you have milk in your refrigerator, my family, my kids kind of drank it up, Kelby, for a while, and we kind of phased it out after a while. I poured some of it out into the sink. Like, that's one easy, obvious one. What's not so obvious is milk and chips. So if you go and you look, it'll say contains, milk, egg, whatever, dairy inside of a chip. And so now it's going to be very important to read the directions. And so no dairy. There's tons of substitutes. Let me show you a substitute for the cheese. Hold on, let me grab one real quick. I got about 40 minutes. So this is one of the brands. Everybody has different brands that they like and enjoy. Daiya is one of the brands. This is a non-dairy cheese that you can get from Publix, you can get from Trader Joe's, and just the whole nine. And just find brands that meet that standard. And so, again, that's dairy in all forms. That's cheese, that's milks, that's in products, and just the whole nine. So that makes sense. Thumbs up. That makes sense. Good. Also, processed food. I kind of put that on there to make sure that you know that there's no processed food. I went to the store today and I was just getting stuff for lunch, and I actually walked past a moon pie, and I was like, "Yo, they still sell these. These are like an actual thing. Like a moon pie is an actual thing." And I was gonna make a joke because they were right next to the garbage, the garbage bags, and I was like, "This is right. Moon pies are next to what they really need." And so, just knowing that any type of processed food, anything that you can't grow, Anything that you can't go out into the wild and catch is just not for you for the next 45 days. Let me go through these last few of the golden rules. Um, I'm glancing at my email real quick, which is probably bad etiquette. My 45 mil. Got it. And so we have the 45 minutes. So we got the pork. We talked about, I didn't talk about sugars, high fructose corn syrup. When you check your drinks or you check your food, you're going to read the ingredients. And if you see the ingredient high fructose corn syrup, run. No high fructose corn syrup. This is not a sugar. This is a sweetener and a substitute, and it causes all sorts of issues. And so I just said for the next 45 days, if you're going to eat any type of sugar, make sure that it's organic sugar. It can be sugar cane. It can be all those things. I would tell you be very serious about how much sugar you intake, but make sure you keep an eye on those things. And then the last thing was white bread, white potatoes, and white rice. I think somebody texted me today, asked me about the white breads and white potatoes and white rice. Instead, eat whole grains, whole grain bread, whole, brown rice. You can eat any other type of starch and just eat the greens. Eat those things that are going to really be really filling for your body in this process. Okay? Y'all good for that? I'll give you another housekeeping rule. Modify for allergies and illnesses. So you may have a peanut allergy. You may have a, seafood allergy. You may have a gluten allergy. You may have, anemia. You may have some type of thing that causes you to have to modify how you eat. You need to pay very close attention to that. Our job is to really begin to focus in on the types of foods that you eat and the impact that it has on your specific body. I'm going to move locations real quick. Is that good? Can y'all hear me pretty well? I'm going to grab the phone. So you just want to pay attention to that. If you're eating a vegan diet and there's no animal products, your iron will get low. So you just want to make sure that if you're anemic, you eat healthy proteins that allow you to keep your iron high, right? So you just want to pay really close attention to that. I went over read the ingredients. If you're not already doing it, you need to read every single ingredient before it goes into your mouth. If you didn't look at the golden list, I think one of the things we put on there was part of the ways that you begin to monitor and to absorb and to observe what's going into your body is by cooking and meal planning, right? You can't know the ingredients oftentimes when you just show up and go out of town. I mean, I'm sorry, not out of town. You go out to eat all the time and just, kind of just consuming what's in front of you. When you cook and meal plan, you can know exactly what ingredients have gone in, the quality and integrity, and then the impact they have on your body. Okay? And so read the ingredients. The 45-day plan versus the 45-day food log. I want to make this kind of clear in this moment. So the plan, and this sounds kind of straightforward, but it really is. The plan is just this. It's a plan. And I texted on you earlier and just said, let's just do week to week. If you need to go week to week and say, this is my breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks for this week, week 1. That's the plan. I woke up that morning and I know what I'm going to eat. I know where I'm going to locate it. And I've already kind of planned to do this, right? The food log is essentially you saying, I planned this, check, we did it, or no, I did something different. And the importance of the 45-day plan and food log is for this, and I'll just tell you the importance of it. It's essentially so that when you look back at the 45 days, you have a mapped out experience of what you fed your body and how you have gained the progress that you have or how you have not. And so it's very important that you're truthful. I know, again, sometimes we're very tempted to not tell the truth about those things because we don't want to tell we ate a whole cake or I don't know, whatever, like a whole bag of chips or something. You have to write it out because it will inform us to say like, okay, it's okay that you ate some chips. It's okay that you put this into your body. We just want to be able to go back, week 1, week 2, week 3, and look at progress or digression and say, oh, it's because you're eating too many sugars. Oh, it's because you're eating too many fats. Oh, it's because, you're leaning these things out. So we just want to be able to track them. So by the end of it, you'll have a lifelong map on what it means for you to fuel your body in a way that's really efficient and effective. Okay. The other housekeeping, then we'll open up into our stuff, is physical fitness. When I wrote physical fitness, here's what I mean. It can be anything that's a little bit more strenuous than just walking, right? So if you like to play racquetball, if you like to jog, if you want to swim, if you just want to get on the treadmill. I sent a screenshot last night of me on the rower and me just doing rows last night. Do what's comfortable for you. Do not overextend yourself. Don't hurt yourself in this process. We are trying to create a lifestyle habits. We're not trying to do a crash diet, right? And we just want to teach ourselves what it means to be physically fit. The only caveat I would give is to stretch yourself just a little bit, right? So if you do five pounds, do 10 pounds, within a week. Stretch yourself a little bit more so you can get more out of that experience. But again, switch it up and then put it on the actual planner. Last two things is to participate in the Slack group text via this: recipes, workouts, and encouragement for the other group members. Here's one of the things that I realize about all of this is that we're growing collectively. There's things that you know that I don't. There's things that I know that you don't. There's things that collectively we're going to celebrate. That's going to be inspiration for other people. And so what I want us to do is to use that group chat to share. Let's say you put together a banging salad, or you're excited about this, this thing you just did, in fitness, or this thing that you did. Like, we want to be able to encourage one another, and we want to be able to create kind of the shared understanding of what's happening with others, and then to cheer them on to success in those things. Okay. And last thing in terms of housekeeping is your encouragement partner. I wanted to make sure that we got kicked off really well, and to contact you and so that you are very important. As a matter of fact, I am 1,000% invested in your success. You will be successful. If you listen and you go through this process with integrity, you will be successful. But here's the thing. I'm not the day-to-day. Your day-to-day, the person that you really are going to get the most out of, that's going to walk with you, is your encouragement partner or your encouragement partners. Your encouragement partner is just the person that you're trying to connect with, again, via your story, via your life, for this next 45 days. And we know for certain you have another individual who's encouraging you as they themselves are making that journey, right? You ever heard the saying, do what I say, not what I do, right? That's not true in this group. Everybody is in it for real. We are waking up and we're doing it for real. And we want to make sure that you have a specific person that you're responsible for, and they're responsible for you. That way, by the end of this 45-week journey, you have really began to see the results that you desire. Okay? Good? Is everybody good on that? Okay, good. Just want to make sure I cover those things. If we could, I'm going to do this. I want to go around and I want you to answer 3 questions. What's your name? Where do you live? And then why are you here? And then we can just everybody can go around and share. And then I'll share, last. I'll be the last person to share. What's your name? Where do you live? And then why are you here specifically? Anybody want to go first? Drew, you can go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
All right, cool. So my name is Andrew Crutcher. I live in Memphis, Tennessee, specifically in Whitehaven. And as I just go back to some of my notes and things that I wrote down, essentially the core reason why I'm here is I want to comprehensively serve God better. I want to comprehensively have my entire life mental, physical, financial, all these things, spiritual, just under the reins of God. And I really feel like as I learn to live more lean and more intentional about everything that I do, I really feel like I can serve God better, that I can really walk with him better and learn how to just really be more intentional with everything that I do. Eating, how I deal with my mind, how I deal with my physical health, all those things. So that's the
Good.
core reason why.
Good. Okay. Good. Who's next? Who else wants to share? Come on, Kevin.
Kevin, I'm from Denver, Colorado, and let's see, I'm in this because I'm 33 now. I got 3 kids. It is not getting any easier.
That's right.
And a buddy the other day just turned 40, and he said, "Hey, you got to step it up because it gets harder when you're 40." So I'm in. You know, I feel like I wear a few different hats. You know, between husband, father, pastor to church, I got a full-time job, a lot of different things, and I struggle to be good at all of them at the same time. I feel like when I'm doing well at one, the other one's suffering. Then I do well at one, and what's been of late is, you know, my physical health is what suffers. It takes the back seat. So trying to figure out how to get a balance where I can have a good, sustained, healthy pace with everything all at the same time.
Good. Good. Love that. Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Who wants to go next? Come on, Angelo.
What's happening, everybody? My name is Angelo Cave. I live in San Diego, California. We like to call it America's finest city.
Come on, bro. We're in Atlanta, bro. Don't do that.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, you guys. Honestly, my why is for me and my family, man. I want to lead them. I want to have a diet and a lifestyle that doesn't borrow on my adolescent metabolism anymore, right? So when they get older and my kids don't, get older, they can see the habits or start habits that'll form so that when they're my age, they're not like I'm doing now, trying to go back and get back to the shape that I want to be in. And then beyond that, there's a discipline that I feel here that I'm learning about, and it's gonna grow me. So again, the diet, the family, and the discipline. Those are my 3 main areas, my 3 main whys.
Good. Okay. Let's go. Who's next?
I can go.
Come on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is Danielle Bell, or you can call me Donnie. I am actually originally from Aurora, Colorado, but I live in Atlanta. I've been here for a long time. And I'm doing this because I feel like I'm in my own way with some of the habits and things that I have, and I want to improve on my diet, my exercise, and the things that are going to enable me, or at least not be a hindrance to a lot of the other things that I want to do in my life. So I'm 43, and things happen when you turn 40, as was noted a little bit earlier. And so I'm just trying to get over, I guess, a hump and continue to improve on my health. I've had a lot of stops and starts and things, and I just want to actually be a part of a group that's going to have some accountability and just address these kinds of things in a holistic way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the main reason why I said I wanted to participate. So that's why I'm here. It's good to meet everybody.
Good. All right. Let's go. Who's next? Come on, Jeremy.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeremy again. I live in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm 44 and I got a wife and 4 kids. And for me, the reason I'm here is 5 years ago, I found myself like weeks away from divorce. And what I didn't realize is that while I was out trying to live a life on my own terms, I married a girl who was absolutely committed to the marriage and was having people pray for me. And through like supernatural means, God just stepped in, changed our lives forever. And there's so many good things that have happened as a result of that. And now I find myself in a place where I dream of being able to speak life into men and into couples, to challenge them to be, for men to be lovers and leaders in their home. And the one area that I feel is holding me back is the area of physical fitness. And so when I saw BJ talking about things like this on Twitter, I was like, I want to know more, because I really believe that if I want to step up and talk about living a life of abundance in every area, I have to strive to model that. And while none of us are perfect, we want to do everything we can to embody and to live that out. And so I'm
Good.
really excited to be here, and I can't wait to learn from each of you and to encourage you guys. Really excited. BJ, thanks for doing this, man.
No, thank you. Thanks for being here. Good. Who else? Who's next? Come on, Kelby. You next. Go ahead.
All right. My name's Kelby Lemons. I'm 27. Doing this just because my health
Where you
took
live,
a
Kelby?
Seattle, Washington.
Got it.
Yeah. Doing it because my health took a dip about last year. Couldn't work for a whole year. Lost weight, in and out of the hospital all the time. And so now that I'm getting my health back, it's been hard to supplement the right nutrition with the healing and everything. So it'll be good to get the right ingredients in my body, and hopefully that can help the ailments and the diseases and whatnot as we move forward and all that.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Who's next? Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I bet. I'm Carol Reed. I'm from the Bronx, New York. Currently teaching out of a public school in first grade. I'm excited for the year to be almost over, thank God. But I joined this transformation challenge because I felt it was a good time to actually reset and focus on me for a change. I've been doing a lot with serving my dad's church and ministry opportunities, and I felt like I kind of reached a point of burnout. So this transformation challenge not only gives me a chance to like reset, like physically, obviously with my diet and everything, but also like health wise too. So I think it's a good opportunity to jump in and do that.
Good. Good. Come on, Casey. Casey, you good? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just don't know how to talk.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm
Oh, you-
Casey. I live in Dallas. I'm 36. I just joined because I wanted to look better and feel better in my body, but that hasn't really been enough motivation to make a change for a while. So I kept
Good.
kind of putting it off. But really, I started thinking about 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, and I still wanted to be able to enjoy, my life and be able to do my work and do my job and the calling that I felt like God has placed on my life. So that was motivation that's enough to finally make a change. So that's
Good.
why I think it was just God's timing. I started thinking about all these things about the same time I saw your Twitter post, and
Wow.
it was the right time.
Wow. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. I don't know who this other number is. You got to introduce yourself. I don't see a video, so I don't know whose number it is. Go ahead. Caller, go ahead. Here, I can tell you who it is. This is Casey's number. She's doing both of them. Okay. I'll just share where I'm at. Can y'all hear me? Am I good to go? I want to share more about me, and I'll tell you my story, and then we'll get into this first session. Okay. My name is BJ Thompson. I am a Dallas native, Dallas, Texas native, Casey. I'm not a Cowboy fan or hater. Went to the University of North Texas undergrad. Really, met my wife, Banja, there. We've been married 17 years. Next month, August. And that serve as the director of Build a Better Us, which is all about the transformation and inspiration of both individuals and couples and resourcing them. The reason why I'm doing this challenge is a couple of fold. Can you hear me? I grew up with both parents in the house. My mother had me at the age of 17 years old. My father and her got married when I was 5 years old. I have two siblings and just grew up just being like, we're going to make it. Whatever happens, we're just going to make it. And I think from a dietary perspective, you know, as long as you have food in front of you, you're good. It's a great situation. My dad left school in the 10th grade. And because of that, caused a lot of limited opportunities in just his life and work. Also became a smoker early on. I don't know if y'all remember back in the day when they used to advertise smoke commercials as like the thing. It was like a big thing, you know, Joe Camel, all that. Like these folks have no idea that like before they put that big sticker on tobacco that said cancer causing, it was just a social thing. You just became a smoker as a way to pick up women and to have a good time and talk at things. And so he picked it up really early on, worked a ton of hours, did the best he could. And about 6 years ago, my father unexpectedly passed from a heart attack and from an aneurysm. And I realized in that moment that my father wasn't overweight. His body couldn't handle it anymore. Like the energy drinks to stay up, you know, and work a 12-hour shift, the cheeseburger to just get through the day, the smoking, to like be social or to give himself a break. His body at a certain point just collapsed inside out. And you know, you talking about shocking when you realize that your parent is not here because they passed in a car accident or because they left because somebody harmed, but because of the type of diet and the health habits that they possess, it changes you. You just realize like, this is not a joke. This is not a game. You know, I need to not play, and I'm really not far away from that. And so I think for me, my personal story was realizing like, as much as I felt like, oh, I could be better on a physical level, I never equated, you know, my absence of intentionality with, you know, oh, I can lose my life, you know, because of this. And so went to this convention, saw, and this at my child's school, saw they were comparing meals and they were showing how people eat, and they just pulled out these plates. They said, you check off which one you eat, pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian, or conventional diet. And then so you walk around the room and then they compare and contrast all the different types of meals, the nutrients, the whole nine. And at the end, they said of all the diets, the best, I think was like vegan and something else. And they said the worst diet, the worst diet was the one that I was eating on a regular basis. And that's when it hit me. I was like, I am living in this cyclical thing to where I'm active, I'm working out, I'm doing all these different things, but I'm really not healthy. And I think it was that day that I started saying, I need to do something different. And so in that process of just kind of like being sober about the unexpected passing of my father and being informed, like, wow, my approach to food it's unconscious. I am just kind of going with the flow and hoping that I'm eating healthy with no food information is when I realized that I didn't need a small modification. I needed a total transformation. Like there was something spiritual and something mental that I wasn't willing to deal with. And I didn't even realize that all those different things were a part of me, and they were connected to this transformation, that I wasn't just going to go on a crash diet and lose a couple of pounds because I had some major event or situation, that I needed to start confronting some of these fears, some of these traumas, some of my misunderstanding, the misinformation that I had, and the apathy that I had developed simply because I wasn't in the immediacy of a crisis. And that's when I started saying, I need to start jumping into, my past. I have to start talking about my faith life and what this means. I need to start thinking more cognitively about what I consume. People say they watch every word that comes out of their mouth. And I want to ask them, do you watch every piece of food? When you have to think about every single thing that comes into you, that changes you. It changes how you're processing the world. And so I started moving from this unconscious living to a very conscious awareness of everything. And it was the first time in my life that I realized that this was essential for my total transformation, right? So I'll get into my first point of this session. And it's this. Part of the reason why we don't experience total transformation is that though we live in a body, we experience it ignorantly, right? Though from the day you were born with your hands, with your feet, with your lungs, with your nose, and with your brain. And many of us, though this has always been a part of what we are and who we are, we don't really know about how they work, right? We just know that they work. We don't know how they work. And so when you think about it, I flunked out of biology several times, right? I flunked out of the anatomy, I couldn't take anatomy, physiology, right? And so when you think about it, we are born into this thing called a body as souls. And yet many of us don't even take on an education that would allow us to understand the very thing that we're possessing every day throughout our being, right? And because of that, because of the absence of information about it, we unconsciously become poor stewards of our own body. So though we have a body that we possess and that we have every day, we become poor stewards because the truth of the matter is we don't really know how it functions. We don't know how it works. All we know is what? That it works, right? And this is why we don't get attention to certain pieces and parts until it breaks down, right? So you don't think about your lungs until it's hard to breathe. You don't think about your kidneys until you can't process fluid. You don't think about, your muscles until they cramp up or until they're torn. We don't think about things often until they begin to stop functioning and they create a lot of chaos in our lives. And here's what I want to do for us, the goal for us in these next 45 days. I want you to begin to know your body, your mind, body, and soul in ways you've never known it before, right? Casey, you said something. You said this is you're a reset. I want to reset. I want to create something that allows longevity. Well, if you don't know thyself, you're not going to be able to experience life in the fullness. And so part of what I want us to do is to begin to engage this process in a way that allows us to know ourselves in ways that even could be uncomfortable, right? So this is why you need an encouragement partner, right? We start talking about food logging. You hear that word, you go, man, that's scary. To say, I am tracking myself. I'm getting to know my habits so that I can create a better version of me. When you start talking about traumas and we start going into the mental stuff and we start talking about imprints and just these different things that have happened throughout our lives, that's scary to admit. I have buried these things into a box. I have not confronted the fact that I have felt shame and guilt and, abandonment. And now it has leaked itself into my adult life. And what I want to say is the more we confront the darkness with the light, the more we can experience a fuller version of ourselves and begin to experience the fullness of total transformation of who we are and who we were made to be. Okay? That good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me go through what I call the poor relationship. Okay. I'm a relationship guy. I don't know if you guys listen to our podcast. Make sure y'all check out the podcast, Build a Better Us podcast. Lots of stuff, lots of funny stuff. My co-host, Johnny Parker, is amazing. But we talk a lot about relationships. And I am 0 and 50 in relationships. Casey, I've been in a lot of relationships, dated a lot of young women before I was married to my wife. And, you know, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just telling you that's the truth thing. That's what happened in this relationship. And, you know, in those relationships, I've realized that a relationship means this. It's how you relate to another person. And the word ship is an indication of where you're going. So relate, ship. The question is not if you're going somewhere. The question is where you're going. And so I think that when we talk about relationship, we assume that relationship is always with your divine being, with another human being, but not with objects. And what I want to put before you today is this, is that you can also have relationships with the creation itself, and that being food, right? And so now when we start talking relational health, we're not just talking about how you and your kids get along, how you and your roommate get along, how you and your spouse get along. Now we're talking about what is your relationship with food in the creation and whether or not it is healthy or unhealthy. And here is the objectivity that you experience in this. You know it's healthy because it's leading you to a more mature, healthy place. You know it's unhealthy because if you continued on it, it would lead you to an unhealthy place or a stagnant place, right? And I think that we have grown so accustomed to the idea of food, eating it, consuming it, and it not creating growth, that we assume that food is not supposed to be healthy and grow us. And what I want to contend with us today is that when we have a poor relationship with food, we find ourselves in an unhealthy relationship. Does that make sense? Relationship, it's not growing you. It's either declining your health or it's keeping you stagnant, right? I'll give you a couple of reasons why. And I'm going to save some time for questions at the end. One, we approach it with food unconsciousness, right? What do I mean by that? We pick up a plate. You ever heard somebody say this? You ask them, what do you eat? And their response is what? I eat what? Everything, right? You ever heard that? Y'all ever heard somebody say, oh, I eat everything, right? When I hear a person say that now, what it tells me is they don't think about what goes into their mouth, right? I used to see it as this high compliment. I was like, oh, you are hospitable and you are, receptive to gifts and you are all these different things. What I realize is that that person does not think about what goes in, right? If someone gives you a list of things they can't eat culturally, they say, oh, I don't eat this and I don't eat that and I don't eat this and I don't eat that. What would we call that person? What kind of eater?
Picky.
What kind?
Picky.
A picky eater. We call that person a picky eater. We say that if you have a sense of restriction on what you will consume, you are higher than thou. You are almighty. You are, right? Like, we will villainize that individuals. And let me ask you a question. Which one is more likely to have a healthy relationship and which one is more likely to have an unhealthy relationship? The person that eats everything or the person that's a picky eater? Who's more likely to have a healthy relationship? Which one? I can't hear you.
Picky.
Picky. Why?
Because they're more concerned about what they have and just in their body than just like taking any of them.
They're considering it. They're thinking about this. Here's our problem. We come to a plate of food, brain gets shut off. We just eat. As long as it tastes good, it's great. Right? As long as it tastes good, it's great, Kelvin. Here's the problem. When you shut your brain off, unconscious, you're not picky, you'll eat anything. What have you learned to develop without any thought? You develop what kind of relationship with food?
Bad.
An unhealthy relationship. Listen, here's an aha moment. The question is not if you have a relationship with food. The question is what type of relationship with food do you have? It's not if. We all have it. It's what type. And one of the things that adds to a poor relationship with food is unconsciousness. You don't think about it. You just do it, right? Second thing adds to a poor relationship with food is our family. Family traditions. It's like my mama used to always make spaghetti like this. My uncle always made lasagna like this. My auntie makes mac and cheese like this, right? And you just think like, this is just what we do. It's not anything bad. It tastes good. And this is the thing that she makes. And so you find yourself adopting these habits because this is your family. This is what you do when you get together on Taco Tuesday. This is how we eat. And so one of the reasons why we develop such a poor relationship with food is because we have family customs, traditions, and norms that have not been really consciously scrutinized. They just are, right? And they come so early of an age. When you're a kid, you're a baby, and they start feeding you their mac and cheese, you don't have a choice, right? I don't know if y'all grew up with this, but I remember my father eating piccolo. Do y'all know what this is? It's like the worst thing ever, right? So, I thought bologna was out of my category. I was like, I don't like bologna. I haven't eaten bologna in almost 20 years, just to make that clear, because of how much I ate it growing up. Piccolo was like another bologna that they had around, and it had these little green, red peppers inside of it. And my father would bring it home every week. I have no idea why he bought it, but he brought it home, right? I remember growing up, and I remember, I'll save that next. But the family dynamic just meant this was so normal. I never had a chance to say no. And if I was to not eat my food, I would be in trouble. So think about this. Our relationship with food was even coerced in a sense with no consciousness, because if you were not to eat your food, you was going to starve for the night. Right? You gonna go to bed hungry, and you gonna wake up in the morning looking crazy because you ain't ate all night, and you ain't nothing but 12 years old. How many times you gonna miss a meal? How many hot chips can you eat, right? And so what we end up doing is we develop these relationships at such an early age with consequence, right? Because we have not eaten in these particular ways, right? Not only that, you have marketing misinformation, right? So you have large corporations that profit from misinformation. You got to have a Coke, right? When you look at the commercial, y'all seen those studies where they pour Coke on a battery and it turns into acid and it can clean this and clean that, right? We have been massively marketed with misinformation. And so now we have this thing that is normal to our culture because this mechanism, this large bureaucracy is pushing it down to us to normalize it. And now we have to get those 2 tacos. Now we have to get that double cheeseburger. Now we have to do those things because mass marketing is literally seeing us as consumers, and it's moving us into the normalcy of those things, and it's doing it for cheap. They're saying you can come here and you can get the 5 for $5. You can come here and you can get the 2 for $2, right? You can come here and get these different things, right? And so you get to a space where you have been massively marketed to. You have you have a family history with it. You have an unconscious thinking, and then listen, last thing. You have a personal reinforcement without disruption. So we just keep doing it with no thoughts, and it's not disrupted. And we just grow older and we do those same things and we look forward to experiencing them and maybe in expanded ways. And is what we develop is what I call the next thing. I got 2 more points. We develop food trauma. Okay? And I talked to you about food trauma. You guys, everybody's using the word trauma these days and they're flippantly kind of using, oh, my trauma, my trauma, my trauma. Trauma is an event or an occurrence of traditional horror. And I'm going to tell you why I call it food trauma. Our relationship with food specifically can take on a couple of different things in terms of trauma. One, scarcity. I remember growing up, y'all grew up with Jungle Juice? Come on, y'all, that's the South. Yo, this is crazy. So this is Little Debbie snacks. Y'all remember Little Debbie snacks? The little Star Crunches, the oatmeal pies, the moon pies, right?
Yeah.
I remember this. This is no lie. You could go to the store. You could get 2 Little Debbie snacks because they all were a quarter. I think they moved up eventually to 50 cents. Inflation happened, Casey, so they ended up moving up to like 50 cents, right? But it used to be you can get 2 Little Debbie snacks for a quarter, and then they had a Jungle Juice, but they had 2 sizes of Jungle Juice. Jungle Juice, they had a small kind of quart, like a milk quart, like a lunch milk joint, and then they had the big, the big one, Angelo, listen, that was 50 cents. So for $1, which is all you had, you could get 2 Little Debbie snacks and 1 Jungle Juice, right? Now, here's what I can tell you about the Jungle Juice. On the container of what it says in big red letters, does not contain what?
Juice.
Any real juice. I want you to hear this. You can go to the store for $1 and you can buy 3 items, 2 dry foods and 1 liquid that will fill you up. The big carton of juice that you bought does not contain what?
Juice.
Any juice. There's 0 juice. I don't know what they put in it. It was always leaking. Why are all the Jungle Juice cartons always leaking? They're always leaking, right? Somebody knows their stuff, right? And then the Little Debbie, what do the Little Debbies contain? Nothing but sugar and processed food. Now, I want you to hear this, and I want you to take this point to heart. When you live in communities of scarcity, you find yourself doing what's available with what you have, and you only consume that which you can afford, right? Ain't no Trader Joe's. There's no Whole Foods, right? That's for picky eaters. You eat whatever's in front of you, right? And so now at a young age, you develop what I call a food trauma, right? You've learned these habits that have come because of scarcity. And now because of those things, they've made them accessible. Now you develop a trauma because you can't let them go, right? That's not just the city. Let's just think about the rural communities, right? In a rural community, you eating high starches, high carbs, lots of biscuits and bacon and, pies, big pies that you eat. Everything got gravy. Everything has butter. Y'all remember Paula Deen? Y'all remember the Paula Deen joint? Did y'all ever go to the casino? Yo, if you go to the Paula Deen cookbook, everything has butter and bacon. There's nothing. This woman can't make nothing without butter and bacon. Everything has a ton of butter and bacon. And I think what it reflects is a demographic of a rural community, a community that used to be marked by agricultural work and farm work. So you go out, you cut the hog, and you get the eggs from the chicken, and you work all day. Well, here's what happened. Mass production came into that. You don't grow your own hog, you go to the store. You don't get your own eggs, you go to the store. You don't go to these different places. You go to the store, and they still consume that same diet, but this time it was all processed food. And so when you go to places like Mississippi, Mississippi had the highest obesity in the nation, right? And so why? It's not just one particular area. It's not just this inner city area where kids are dominated by chicken and food places and corner stores. It's not just the rural communities where individuals find themselves eating this diet for, that used to be what would fuel you for the day to work in a field because you are tending to your own farm. Now that thing is creating obesity in your body and then cancers in your life. And so what I call a food trauma is when we find ourselves early on adopting habits of the surrounding community based off of resources, based off of norms, and it leaves our minds and our bodies in shambles, right? And the reason why it is hard to give up, and I just put this, we develop what we call food fear, okay? I try to tell people this, you ever heard of the will to live? You guys ever heard of that? Like your body has a will to live. If somebody had a weapon or something, your body would kick in to respond. Like, I gotta respond, okay? I gotta get out of here right now, right? I'll tell you how this works. Your brain, and we'll go into this more with we'll go into this more when I go into mental stuff. Your brain has a thing called the hippocampus. Hippocampus is where your brain is storing files of thoughts. Sees it, eyes see it, hippocampus, thought, right? Something happened, event, situation, thought. Your amygdala, which is the emotions, sends out chemicals, tells you how to respond, how to feel, all these different things, begins to develop based off of that stimuli. That's why when you watch a certain commercial about a certain type of food, your mouth waters. You ever seen that? Somebody like showed you just a picture of a certain food and your mouth water? Why? What's kicking in? Your what?
Hippocampus.
Your hippocampus and then your amygdala.
Mm.
Your limbic brain is kicking in and saying, look, I'm anticipating that thing. The reason why it's a trauma is because when you think about not having that thing, your brain goes, you're going to die. We're going to live. BJ said no dairy, no cheese. Oh, I don't know what I can do about that. Like your mind doesn't know what to do without those things because it's been conditioned through dopamine. It's been rewarded. It's being rewarded. And so now if you don't have new information, your brain actually says, we're going to die if you don't do that. Right? And so this is why part of the time I'm going to be re-educating you because I realize that if I just say it flat out, like it won't work. Like it won't work for these different things. And so again, it's realizing that we can undo these things. I'm gonna get to this and I want to kind of get to it and we'll get some question and answer. Gosh, we get to a place where we plateau and we decline, and that's what gets our attention, right? We finally get to a place where our bodies plateau and we decline and our health declines, and that's what really gets our attention. And the problem with this idea is that when we only are ready to respond when we're in crisis, it's teaching us to be reactive with our health, not proactive, right? So now I got to doctor got to tell me I'm having heart murmurs and I got to take this medication and all these different things. It's conditioning you to believe that the only time you should be serious about your overall being and health is when you're in a crisis. And what I want to say to us is that when you respond like that, it's almost too late, right? That the best type of health maintenance is proactive and it's not reactive, right? And I'll tell you these last two things and then we can kind of talk a little bit more. That the task and the goal is to develop a healthy relationship with food, right? And there's two schools of thoughts, but I think this is really important. We can kind of bring the two together. One is this body fuel idea. that if I can just look at let's look at my food as fuel that's going into my body. Do I have 87, 89, 93 octane? It'll change the way I experience it, because then I realize, oh wow, this is not doing anything to me. Next week we'll talk about the impact of food. We'll talk about cancer, swelling, just the whole nine. But it's looking at body as fuel, right? Like I am eating, therefore I'm being fueled to something, therefore I'm able to output those things, right? There's another school of thought that sees these food as fun, right? So that's different colors. I seen you guys a salad picture the other day. It's all kinds of festive colors. It's green, it's red, it's all kind of stuff. It's fun. But here's a problem. When it's fun, it doesn't take into consideration the nutritional value and how it's fueling you. This is the school of thought that I land on. I think that food has to be both fuel and fun. It has to be something that you enjoy in order for it to be long-term, right? But it has to be something that you're cognitively aware of and conscious of what its contents are doing and impacting you in order for it to be beneficial. I come from the school of thought that it needs to be both in order for you to, I come from the school of thought that it needs to be both fun and fuel in order for it to be a lifestyle. If we spend the next 45 days just learning how to fuel, you will be done in the next 30 days. You won't be able to do it. If I teach you how to do the fun piece without the fuel, it doesn't matter how cool and creative you are, you won't have an effective diet. What we want to do is have both a fuel and fun with that which we consume. That's why you should not dread your meal on a daily basis. You should not dread your snacks. You should not be dreading these things, because this is what you're going to need to sustain over time. So that's all I got for now. Any aha moments, questions, comments? Thank you guys. I'm really at time with my session. I wanted to do 40 minutes, but I wanted to make sure I got to it. Go ahead. We'll take a brief time of that, and then we can jump in a group chat, talk later, talk offline or whatever. Any aha moments, any questions, any of that as we wrap up for the evening. Thank you guys. Entertainment.
And, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Aha me is going all the way back.
Say it again. We can't hear you, Joe.
Aha moment for me was going back to the idea of having a relationship with food. Like, that's something that I've never, conceptualized. I never thought through that. That's totally foreign to me. And just hearing you talking about the snacks and buying 6 and 7 things for $1 and growing up just doing that habitually, and then learning just now how that was aiding me to have food trauma and a negative relationship with food. And it's like, wow, like never even thought of it like that, but to actually consider it, like really, really consider it, it's pretty mind boggling. So
Good.
that's a piece for me.
Good. Any other aha moments for you guys? Any questions or aha moments as we wrap up? Donnie?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I've been cooking and eating dinner as we've been talking, so I didn't want to pitch off a party for that. I have a question, actually.
Go ahead.
So my biggest kind of apprehension is in doing the challenge. It's not actually the food, because I know I actually like to eat healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lifestyle changes and the other things that I'm going to have to do in order to do this consistently.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I guess that's a question as far as what we can anticipate as far as what we can look forward to address that part.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So that's a great question. Part of it is just gradually learning. I want you to gradually learn, and I want to be very honest with us in real time. That's why keeping a log, the first 45 days of keeping a plan, creating a plan, and creating a log is very strategic for the long term. You'll be able to look back and go week 1, week 2, week 3, 5, and 6. This is what I consumed exactly, and this is the results. And then let's say you walk away and you go, man, I love the results, and I grew or I didn't grow. You can replicate or modify, and that's why it's very important. It's almost like you ever seen anybody have sleep apnea? Absence when they go in and sleep all through the night and monitor, and they just make sure like they check their rate, they know what time, like they're monitoring you that whole time so that they can tell you what's happening while you're unconscious and unaware. And so what we're doing in this next 45 days is really putting on paper, painfully, this is what I'm doing in these ways. Part of the reason why I talked about, did you hear the part about food fun versus food fuel? Did you hear that part?
Yes.
Okay. Part of why I said that is because it has to be something you enjoy. The same with your mental health, the same with your spiritual development. I think part of the reason why we don't do things is because we drudge it and we don't know how to do it effectively in a way that we find joy. And we feel like we have choice. And so what I would say is collectively, what makes us unique is that we all bring different perspectives. And there's pieces of what we need that we're going to have to get from one another. And so what I would say is part of the encouragement partner and just all these different dynamics that seem random is so that you can get something about it that maybe you didn't see. Maybe there's parts of the spiritual or the mental or the physical that you didn't see that you'll get from another person, and then vice versa, that would allow it to be more sustainable over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so part of it is community. That is the key, right? Like having an actual community that you really believe in and that you actually know and that you're actually connected to, that you believe that, man, we're together in this whole thing. So, yeah, that's good. What's some other aha moments or questions as we wrap up? Casey, go ahead. Bring it to us from Dallas. Go ahead.
I think I'm good at the moment.
Okay. Any aha moments? Any questions? No aha moments?
I'm enjoying the meal planning app. I've used meal plan apps before, but not one quite like this. So I'm hoping it's going to help me be more consistent and stick to my plan a little better.
Good. Okay. All right. Any other aha moments before we wrap up? Thank you guys for being patient. Any aha moments? Go ahead.
Yeah, like you made a point about being proactive and not reactive when it comes to health. So like thinking that food is not so much a thing just to enjoy, but it's full fuel for the body. Like I was like reminiscing on how many times like I felt like I had to kind of reward myself or like emotionally eat and stuff like that. So that kind of changes things too. Just reframing my thinking in terms of like what's the reason why I eat, and going back to your point about the relationship that we have with food.
Good. Good.
Thank you.
Good. Good. Listen, we'll be meeting next week, and we'll talk about the impact of food on the body. And we'll talk about different foods. We'll talk about cancers. We'll talk about swelling. We'll talk about the whole nine. This is what I want you to do. I want you to, you'll get the replay. You'll get to check it out. I spoke a little swiftly through this, but that's intentional. I want to make sure I cover material, and it's a lot. It's an ongoing process and journey. I am so excited about y'all, and I am 1,000% invested in your transformation. And I'm telling you, if you listen and just abide in what we're saying, the small gradual steps, you will see a transformation like you've never seen in your life. So super excited about that. Any questions, make sure you connect with our tech guy, Josh or Kyle. They'll make sure they take care of you from the tech end, from a coaching perspective. Make sure you contact me if you have a coaching question. But the truth of the matter is, follow your plan, create it if you haven't, week to week. Also, make sure you create a food log, right, where we can know kind of where you've gone and what's actually happened. And then make sure you go through with the exercise. Let's find some fun things to do. Go to the park. You know, I walk the green line out here. I just do different things to keep my exercise up and pushing myself and staying physically fit and physically active. So, yep. Okay. Thank you, guys. First session down. We got this recorded. What up, Josh? You late?
What's up? I know. My bad. I was.
Don't worry. No, you good, bro. Good.
All right.
You good.
Cool.
Okay. Listen, you'll catch the replay.
All right.
Y'all.
All right.